Have you ever thought that a tattoo could get into your lymph nodes and alter your immunity? Tattooing your skin also tattoos your lymph nodes, which can have effects. 1 out of every 5 people in the world has a tattoo, and in the United States, a third of the population has ink on their skin. We've been getting tattoos for over 5,000 years. Otzi, the Iceman, lived in 3300 before Christ and had 61 tattoos made with charcoal. Tattoos have been found on Egyptian mummies, and I have 2 small tattoos on my forearms. Tattooing is part of being human. We get tattoos for cultural, identity, symbolic, artistic, or even therapeutic reasons. Tattoos tell your story but also pose health risks. I'm Dr. Borja Bandera, and I'll explain this in today's video. In light of this new study, what happens when you get a tattoo? When we get tattoos? If we only look at tears, the act of tattooing itself is usually a safe procedure when hygiene practices are followed. It's rare nowadays to see an infection if you do things right and take care of your healing properly. But what about tattoos? What happens long-term when you get one? The ink doesn't just stay in the dermis. It quickly enters the lymphatic system. Let me explain. We introduce about 2.5 milligrams of ink into the dermis per square centimeter of skin. Within a few hours, the pigment particles migrate to the lymph nodes, where they usually stay for a long time. You may wonder what crucial role the lymphatic system and its nodes have in your health. It's essential to understand this. Your body has 2 networks of pipes, we could say the circulatory system and the lymphatic system. The first one sends oxygenated blood to all the cells and collects the deoxygenated blood, and the second one, the lymphatic system, acts like a sewage system, a waste management system, also like a customs system for control, security, and for the absorption and transport of fats. All of that is done by the lymphatic system. What interests us most today is precisely its role related to your immune system, the lymph. The fluid that passes through the lymphatic system collects viruses, bacteria, and damaged cells from the tissues and transports them to the military bases. The lymph nodes, and yes, also the ink you inject with tattoos. You have more than 600 of those bean-shaped structures, each less than a centimeter. Lymph nodes cluster in key areas like the neck, armpit, groin, and thighs, serving as transition zones between body regions. Lymph enters the node from one side and exits the other. Inside, a mesh traps pathogens, debris, and cancer cells. Keep in mind, that's why lymph nodes are checked in oncology. Inside, there are B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes, which activate and multiply quickly to fight whatever threat is present. An infection makes the lymph node in your throat swell and hurt. For me, the same one always swells, right here. A key fact about the lymphatic system that people don't understand is that the heart doesn't move the lymph. Your muscles do, acting like a passive pump. Voluntary muscle contraction squeezes the vessels, enabling everything I mentioned to occur. If you don't move, you get intoxicated by your own stagnant fluids. Literally. Now, what happens when the injected ink reaches the lymph nodes? The problem is it's not just ink. Solvents, additives, and binders are also toxic. Besides the pigment, black ink is made with carbon and is generally the safest. Colored inks are made from industrial organic pigments, and we like them less. In lymph nodes, macrophages, scavenger cells, try to eat and clean up ink, but can't because it's not a typical invader. The result is that they eat the ink and become giant pigmented cells that stay there. Some die trying to eliminate it, meaning they go into apoptosis, and those that don't die trigger an immediate response, the inflammatory one, in 2 phases. The first is an acute phase. This is what happens days after the tattoo, when the tattoo is healing, and the chronic phase can last for months or years. This chronic response affects our health. Do you think this new study confirms it for us? An interesting study from the Infection and Immunity Group at the Swiss Institute of Biomedical Research, led by Santiago Fernández González, whom I had the pleasure of meeting. After 7 years of work, the study was published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a leading scientific journal. And it has confirmed for the first time, using animal models and tattooed people, that after getting a tattoo, the ink indeed travels quickly through the lymph, and within hours accumulates in large amounts in the lymph nodes. There. What happens is that the macrophages actively eat all types of ink that remain inside them. But there's more. They studied something very interesting in mice. The researchers saw that the tattoo altered the response to vaccines after an mRNA-type vaccine, like the ones for COVID. The tattooed mice generated fewer antibodies than those without ink. For inactivated vaccines like the flu shot, now that flu is common, the ink sometimes actually enhanced the response. So, could it modify the immune response? Well, it seems that it could indeed pose some other health risk from the tattoo. Some authors have previously urged caution, noting that ink pigments contain aromatic hydrocarbons, polycyclic compounds, aromatic amines, and heavy metals like cadmium, lead, mercury, or arsenic. These substances may be carcinogenic, but current evidence is unconfirmed and mostly observational, showing associations rather than causality. Should we be worried? Avoid tattoos? Or am I at risk with a small forearm tattoo? Relax, I'll explain after you read calmly. The conclusions that I think we can draw from this study are the following. The authors hypothesize that excess ink and excipients in the lymphatic system put extra stress on the immune system, which works to eliminate them over time. This would lead to a depletion of immune resources, resulting in greater susceptibility to infectious diseases or cancer. This is still an interesting hypothesis that I value. Second, tattoos can modify the immune response to certain vaccines, weakening some and enhancing others. For me, this is the main finding of the study, though it was done in mice. It shows the impact on the immune system is real and raises many questions. It raises low-grade chronic inflammation, which may cause lymphatic malignancies, as some association studies suggest. Does it actually make us more prone to infections or cancer? Now I'll give you my professional and personal opinion. As I said at the beginning, tattoos are a means of expression, and I'm not going to take a stance as someone who is anti-tattoo, in light of the current evidence. However, this doesn't mean that they are harmless, like many other practices we humans do, and with what we have. It seems that there are some associated risks that, like almost everything in health, are dose-dependent. In this sense, the attitude that seems most appropriate to me is 1. If you're considering a tattoo, remember today's video information. Do you still want to do it? For any reason, should I avoid large tattoos or tattoos? Blackout because of the large amount of ink that will enter your lymphatic system and stay there for years, if not decades. Remember that this study suggests that the amount of ink is the main factor related to immune stress. 3. Always choose black ink tattoos over colored ones. Black ink is more stable and less reactive. 4. Remember, tattoos are body modifications. Forget black ink tattoos. Are you considering getting tattooed? Maintain a healthy lifestyle to help your lymphatic system cleanse efficiently. And this means doing strength exercises regularly and sleeping as well as you can, as well as taking care of yourself emotionally and nutritionally. Here's today's video. Thank you, big hug. Keep empowering yourself.